Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fraser Not the Exorcist. And today I wanted to talk about the 1991 black comedy fantasy film Drop Dead Fred. Now, this film is kind of notorious for being regarded, well, at least by some, as one of the worst movies of all time. But at least if Wikipedia is to be believed, it's kind of gotten a bit of a cult following over the years. Growing up, Drop Dead Fred was just one of those movies where like it seemed like everybody hated it, and because like I'd never heard like a single good thing about Drop Dead Fred. I always heard about how it was annoying and how it was like basically like a kids movie for adults kind of, but like with toilet humor and stuff like that, just basically a bunch of stuff that the majority of film goers hate, which is kind of weird because the film did make a profit. It's $6.7 million budget, and it made $14.8 million at the box office. So at least it wasn't a failure. And uh, what attracted me personally to wanting to watch it for myself to really evaluate and see how I feel about it was because I'm a big Phoebe Cates fan. I've always liked her and pretty much everything that I've seen her in, and also because whenever a film has a cult following, usually it's for a reason. Usually because it's misunderstood. So I just wanted to see if the film was misunderstood. Now, do I think that it's some sort of misunderstood classic and that everyone should watch it? No, it's not as bad as everyone says. We'll see. But first, let's go through the plot. Now, basically, the movie is about Elizabeth, played by Phoebe Cates, and her imaginary friend, Drop Dead Fred, played by Rick Mayall. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And basically, after getting in pretty much the at least the lowest low of her life, her imaginary friend Fred shows up again because as a kid, as a coping mechanism from her abusive mother, she made up Drop Dead Fred to make her cope with that situation because she wasn't happy. So now that she's definitely not happy now, since she's going through a divorce and she just lost her job and her car got stolen and all that, she's in such a depressive state that Fred comes back to make her feel good again. And the movie is basically about her basically getting over her sort of like her neediness in a way, sort of, but also like her wrestling with whether or not she really needs Fred, whether or not she wants to keep him around. So, so it's basically about her like dealing with her problems, basically that. And okay, since that's about it, let's go into the positives and negatives. Then I'll share my general consensus on the film. My first positive for Drop Dead Fred, I have to say, would be the acting, especially from Phoebe Cates, because like while I've enjoyed her and other stuff, it's based like they weren't like deep roles or anything like that. And I'm not saying that her character Elizabeth is like the deepest, most emotional role ever, but I think it is the most emotional role that she did in her career, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen all of her films, but this is definitely the most serious one. And it's nice to see that she can handle that sort of subject matter and that kind of a character. Like she really sells me on being someone who's lonely and depressed and who like really needs to get out of the rut that she's in at the moment. Rick Mayall is pretty mixed bag in the movie because he can act. It's proven in the film. I can see in the film that he can act, but he's just doing way too much. Like he's overacting way too much. He's trying so hard to make everything funny. It's just so desperate, such a desperate attempt, and I'm not sure why. Like the biggest problem of this movie is Fred's humor, because there is humor in here that I think works, like some of the jokes from Carrie Fisher, because she's in the movie as well. She does a good job as well. I like her, and like like her. She has some funny moments, as well as Elizabeth's mother has some funny moments. Elizabeth herself has some funny moments. Not like laugh out loud funny, but just like like generally okay kind of funny. But Fred just does way too much. It's just terrible. Like even if this was a kids film, it's just annoying, and just like he's just trying way too hard to be funny, just trying way too hard to be annoying, which is kind of weird because he's supposed to be annoying. But I just think it goes way too far with the character. He never, it's not funny, it's never funny. And it's not until like the end of the, well, we'll get to that in a second. All right, I can't talk about that right now. So yeah, that's the, well, honestly, I don't have a lot of positives and negatives about the film, but basically the acting's good. The acting's good pretty much all around. Another positive, the pacing. I really like the pacing of the movie. I think it goes by as fast as it has to be. It's about an hour and 39 minutes, hour 40 minutes long, which is as long as it should be. Now, the negatives. I'd have to say the biggest negative, and to well, to be fair, the only negative that I have about the film is Drop Dead Fred's humor. All right, that's basically my problem with the movie. Drop Dead Fred's humor is terrible. It's really bad. It's annoying. It's way too loud. It's way too over exaggerated. Just like I said a minute ago. It's just too much. It's just too much. That's basically what I can describe it as without going on for way too long. Is that it's too much, and that's a problem. All right, because he just breaks up the entire film to do some unfunny gags that just makes everyone's life miserable, basically. Okay. Now, to be fair, I'm kind of rushing through the positives and the negatives, not just because I don't have much to say like generally about them, but because I just want to get into how split I am on the film. So let's just move straight into the general consensus. So just like I just said, I'm split on this movie and as to whether I like it or not, because on one hand, I can see why people hate it because of Drop Dead Fred's humor for most of the film. Well, for the whole film, basically. Uh, and I can see why someone could watch this and see it as one of the worst movies of all time. Like, I really understand, because it is very annoying. It's hard not to cringe. It's hard not to cringe, and it's really hard to get through, and so I understand that. But on the other hand, as to people who've sort of given this movie some praise in latter years, I understand that as well, because the movie really does a great job in dealing with its themes. Even though um, Fred keeps getting in the way of the movie itself. It kind of seems he the movie does do a great job of dealing with depression and loneliness and just like neediness, because Elizabeth as a character, she was abused as a child by her mother, right? And she has this really controlling mother, and she says that like she can't handle being alone. All right, and that's a really big theme throughout the film. She can't handle being alone. She always has to, which is why she like stays with her cheating boyfriend, even though he's like openly, pretty openly, stupidly cheating with her, with Bridget Fonda, who's in a supporting role. So yeah, it does a really great job of dealing with its themes, and I really love those themes, and it has a really great message. I think it delivers the message really, really well. It really surprised me how well they dealt with it. But none of this really comes together until the end of the film, when Fred finally calms down, finally, for like 10 minutes, stops making stupid, unfunny jokes, and finally get serious and to the point of actually helping Elizabeth as a character to better herself and to leave her situation, which, and and in that, the movie does a great job in showing it. The movie does a great job in wrapping up the film, and the ending is really good. That last third of the film is really good, but like having to sit through two-thirds of Fred just ruining everything, because like the only reason why he even got serious in the last third is because Elizabeth started taking these pills that would basically erase him from existence, and he, wouldn't be anyone's imaginary friend at that point. He'd just not exist. So that's why he kind of hunkered down and said, "Hey, let me actually help her this time." Because the whole time, right, the whole time from when she was a kid, when she was always like, playing games with Fred, right, they would cause mischief. He would encourage her to cause mischief. They'd break stuff. They'd like the police got called on her parents and stuff like that. And while I'm not, like, encouraging what her mother did to her, which is another problem with the film that I'll get to in a second. I'm not encouraging what her mother did to her, but I can understand her frustration because Fred just keeps messing up her life. He sinks Carrie Fisher's boat home in the film with all her stuff in it. And of course, miraculously, a couple scenes later, it's all okay because, as it turns out, the boat was worth a bunch of money, and now she's rich and stuff like that. So now everything's good just because of movie logic and coincidence. And things just kind of keep getting like wrapped up a bit too neatly. Like his antics keep getting justified as he's helping her cope when she really needs help. But I guess I can kind of understand like where they're coming from with him making her do mischief as a kid, because like she's a kid, like she can't just like run away from home or anything like that. Like he can't like, you know like really sort of like help her out of that situation. But like he just makes everyone's life a living hell. She like the whole reason why goodness gracious, I don't know. I'm split on how I feel about the film, because it handles its themes really well. When Fred isn't messing things up, everything is going great and it's a great movie. But then we get all these unfunny jokes and all of his antics and all of his mischievous ways. He keeps wrecking everything and breaking everything, and it's just like his actions can't be justified. All right, he can't be justified. They keep trying to make us feel bad for him and stuff when she starts taking the pills and stuff, by showing us these flashbacks of them as of her as a kid playing with Fred, and how happy he made her feel and stuff like that. And which leads me into another problem that I have with the film, basically, other than just the humor, and it's that they don't really do a good job of showing the mother being abusive. They do a great job of showing her being controlling and, like always wanting to basically be in control of Elizabeth's life. But that's about it. We don't see her like hit Elizabeth. We don't see her like even like we don't even like they don't even like talk about it to the point of saying like, yeah, this is exactly what she did, because that would have at least helped in like Fred distracting her with all the mischief and stuff. But they don't, like, they just kind of vaguely say, oh yeah, when Fred's not there, she did stuff. And that's basically it. That's not what she exactly said, but that's basically what it is, because they don't do a great job of showing her mother to be this person that caused Elizabeth all this trauma. Maybe as a controlling parent, maybe if they just leaned into her being, well, now that wouldn't really work, because if she's just controlling, then I guess she'd kind of grow up bitter at her mother, but she wouldn't be like, like she wouldn't be mad at her. She wouldn't have all this trauma. She wouldn't be so like depressed and needy all the time, having to cling on to her friends and their cheating boyfriend all the time. If if it was just controlling, and to quickly fix that, they could have just, like, I don't know, shown a scene of her getting abused, because they, it's a PG-13 movie, like, like, you don't need to show blood or anything like that, but just make it more clear, make us actually not, you know like, of course her mother's not like, I don't like the character, as in like her, like she's a good character, but you know what I mean, basically, right? But they don't. I just don't think that they do a good job of showing her mother being like such an abusive, trauma causing person, like they make her out to be in the film. Well, like, of course I accept that she is, but they just don't do a great job of kind of doing that. But I will admit that they do a good job of wrapping up the storyline with her mother by the end of the film. So that's basically my thoughts about Drop Dead Fred. I think that they did the themes of loneliness and neediness and of like trauma and stuff like that. I think they do a good job with the themes, and I think it has a great message of, of like taking control of your life, of overcoming your fear, like your greatest fears. So, like, yeah, in that regard, it's a great message, and it gets everything across really well. But in order to get to that really satisfying ending, you have to go through a bunch of unfunny, desperate gags, just just like even worse than juvenile humor from Rick Mayall as Fred, because because the guy can actually act when he's serious about it, when he's toning it down finally, near the end of the film, then he's actually good. But for 2/3 of the film, he's basically unbearable. He's basically like almost doing his best to just ruin the film, which is, it just doesn't mix well with everything else. It just feels way too juvenile in its attempts. So basically, I'd give Drop Dead Fred a 5 out of 10. I'm split right down the middle with this, because I love the themes, I love the message, I love this very satisfying ending, and I really like the acting. But Fred's humor just does a really good job at messing with all of that, of just getting in the way. I'm not sure why they chose that kind of humor to use in the film. Oh, and also another bad thing that I forgot to mention: the special effects are very dated, even for 1991. Which it's even for 1991, the special effects look really, really bad. But that's about it. So, how do you feel about Drop Dead Fred? Have you seen Drop Dead Fred? Honestly, I would recommend you to see it, just because of how powerful, just how powerfully it gets across its message and its themes. I think it does a really good job at that. But that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to know when I upload next. I'll split right down the middle on this one. Honestly, I think I'd actually want to see it again. Weirdly, yeah, it's not a good movie exactly, but it's not a bad one either. I'm right down the middle on it. But I think I like it just enough to want to see it again, and I definitely recommend that you see it as well. So, goodbye. God bless.